What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Fortnite's new rivalry system in Chapter 7 Season 2. I'm going to go over how it works, why you should want to do these rivalries, and then some tips to hopefully help you win more of these rivalries. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, comment down below what you think of the rivalry system, and if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything. It is EvolvedJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. If you're someone who's been playing a lot and like really grinding this season, you probably already know all of this, but if you haven't been able to play as much or you're still confused with the rivalry system, this is the video for you. And I'm probably going to be calling the rivalries bounties throughout the video because that's like the more common term for them. So if you get a rivalry or a bounty, a player will be marked for you and you need to go and fight and eliminate them to win that rivalry. And the same is true of them for you. So that you're marked for them, they have to eliminate you. So this will often create a situation where you guys push each other, fight, one of you wins the rivalry, one of you gets those points. And the point of doing these rivalries is that you unlock different things at the rivalry computers around the map, which is the same way that you're going to be able to get the rivalries. There are these rival stations around the map, which is like a big computer. You go interact with it, and then you're able to get a rivalry on another player. It's basically marked with like two crossing swords. The other way to get a rivalry is that if a player who has a rivalry is eliminated by someone who isn't their rival, there will basically be like a contract that's dropped on the ground, and you can go and pick that up to fight the person that they were supposed to fight. So that is how you get them, or somebody else can just activate it and then it'll get placed on you if they go and interact with one of those computers and you happen to be the person who gets it put on them. So that's how you get it. When you complete a rivalry, you will get these coins, and these coins persist from match to match. It doesn't reset every game. Your points don't reset until you spend them. And you can go to the rivalry computer and you can upgrade your weapons. You can buy a high rarity weapon, which is just kind of random in that rivalry station, which item it's selling. And then there's also exotics for sale, and the only way to get these exotics currently is from these rivalry stations. And these exotics are very good. The Shockwave rocket launcher is probably going to be the best mobility item this season. The Mammoth pistol is very good. It's like the exotic Mammoth pistol we had in Lawless, but it's hit scan at least up to 100 meters. I don't know if it becomes projectile after that, but it's super good and it can hit for 200 to the head. And then we also have the marking sniper, which is also going to be really powerful, especially in a season where there isn't any other snipers. And so if you have the sniper, you have a huge advantage on the rest of the lobby. And that marking aspect is not only going to be good for scouting the area and, you know, making sure something is safe, but also finding more players to hunt down with your rivals. So the exotic weapons you can get are good, but there's also a computer that will be selling perks. And these perks are also very, very good. You can buy self-res for pretty cheap at this as well. But there's a perk that will mark enemies when you damage them. Unfortunately, this only works if you damage them for white health, but still it can be really helpful, especially in team game modes. And there's also a perk which gives you unlimited stamina for the remainder of the game. And that one is going to be a huge advantage to have. Just constantly being able to sprint nonstop without having to worry about it is going to give you a huge advantage in fights. So I think it is very much worth doing these rivalries to not only do enough to unlock these different benefits, but also get the currency to spend and get these really good weapons, get these perks. And there will likely be more exotics and more perks coming as time goes on. So that's why you should want to do them, is to get these advantages. When it comes to you having a bounty or having a rivalry on another player, I think one of the biggest problems I see from reading comments or seeing people talk about the game is it seems like people are hyper fixating on it or tunnel visioning on it way too much. You got to keep in mind there's still other players in the lobby. It's not like everybody is just going to ignore you while you go and fight your rival. So you get a bounty. When I have a bounty, it's something I would like to do. It's not life or death for me that I need to get it done right this second. Especially as time goes on, you're going to have a lot of that currency build up. So unless you're spending it every single game, the kind of pressure to do them, I think, will go down over time. So don't hyperfixate on it too much. I would like to eliminate my bounty. I'm not going to throw my game to eliminate my bounty most of the time. Also, know that you are marked for them too. It's not just going to be a complete surprise to them when you pull up on them. And a lot of times what will happen is I feel like you get two types of players. Ones that are incredibly passive, and the moment you get a bounty on them, they just start hiding and they don't move. And there's people that are going to be full sending at you, and kind of identifying what type of player you have a bounty on. It's going to be nice because if you notice that like, hey, this person is rapidly approaching my position, you might want to go somewhere that's a more defensible position. Like maybe there's a mountain nearby that you can go to and kind of wait for that person to try to push you and hopefully catch them off guard. If there's someone who's just chilling, you know that like, okay, this person's just chilling. I can go eliminate them if I want, but I got to keep in mind that they're trying to do this to me. They're trying to set up the fight on their terms. So try to identify what type of person it is that you have a bounty on based on kind of what their circle is doing. Because on your map, when you have a bounty on somebody, you will see a circle marking where that enemy is, but it isn't always like directly on them. Like they're not always perfectly in the center of this. And the circle updates like every few seconds or so. It's not like constantly updating as they move. So there can be times where like the player gets out of the circle or like to the edges of the circles in ways that you wouldn't expect, especially if they use some form of mobility. So keep in mind that it's not perfectly accurate all the time. This is the general area of where the enemy is, right? You may get caught off guard if you're expecting them to be perfectly in the center of that marked zone. And as the timer on the bounty runs low, the circle revealing the player's location will get smaller and smaller. So that might also be something that you want to use to your advantage. If you know somebody's just chilling in an area and, you know, the timer is running out, it's about to get smaller, that might give you, you know, the information you need to know where they are. Another thing that is worth keeping in mind, especially if you do not like the system, is that you can get bounties on bots. Fortnite has bot players, and so you can get bounties on bots. And if you're someone who's been playing the game for a while, there's probably a lot of bot names that you recognize. I'm not going to go through every single bot name that exists, but they typically follow a similar naming pattern of like adjective, noun, and then some numbers. But consoles also have auto-generated names for players, so it's not always that if you see a name like that, it's a bot. But Fortnite uses a lot of the bot names over and over again. So like Athena or Apollo is a bot name. A Peely Smoothie is a bot name. Taco Hands 33 is a bot name. I Have Full Metal is a bot name. And as I said, if you've been playing for a while, you probably recognize a lot of these names. And so that is also something that you want to keep in mind when you get a bounty. Look at the name, look at the skin that the player has. If it's a bot, it'll be a free elimination for you. So that might help you get your bounties up if you've been struggling. But you also might want to leave them, which is something we'll get to in a moment. And then the skin is also important to know because, like, let's say you're pushing your bounty and it's a skull trooper. And then you kind of get into that area. And for this example, it's going to be solos just to keep it simple. You have a bounty on a skull trooper, you get to that area and you see a Peely. That Peely isn't your bounty, but your bounty is still around here as well. So you can kind of use the information you get of the skin to kind of know if there's other players in the area that aren't your bounty. You know what I mean? Also in the end game, I really like getting these bounties because it lets you know where one of the final players is. Like if it's a 1v1 and you have a bounty on that other player, you know the general area where they are and you're less likely to get caught off guard. This is a trade-off where you're giving your location away to them as well, but that's a trade that I'm willing to make because I value not getting caught off guard more than I do giving my location away to the enemy. But even if it is like, you know, several players left in a solo, just knowing where one of them is can be really helpful to you. So I really like getting them as much as possible, even if I don't intend on going for it, just for that information advantage. The final tip I have, or one of the final tips I have with these bounties, is just be willing to let them go. This is something I've talked about a lot when chasing enemy players in game. There comes a time where, you know, it's griefing you more to focus on it and worry about it than it is to just let them go and worry about it another time. As I said earlier on in the video, most of the time I'm playing, I'm getting bounties. I would like to get that bounty elimination and get those points, but it's not the biggest deal to me, especially because I've already unlocked most of the things I need to unlock and built a decent like bankroll of these coins. And that is something that I think will change as time goes on. If I would recommend most players, I think, just grind them out a lot early on in the season, and then you'll get to the point where like you have everything unlocked and you probably have enough currency, unless you're full spending it all the time, to where you can buy what you want and just kind of play normal because the bounties will get put on you. You'll get them on players, but you don't need to focus on it as much once you've unlocked everything and once you've gotten that like coin, you know, bankroll going. So I think early on you probably want to focus on it, especially if you're someone who plays a good amount. You can grind it out pretty quickly in these initial days of the season. But I don't think it needs to be like all of your focus at all times. I mostly just ignore it and play how I was going to play anyways. The times I would fully just intentionally ignore a bounty is if they go hide in somewhere that's really defendable. Like if they go into one of those like underground bunker areas that exist on the map, I don't really want to deal with that. I think that, you know, going there and getting that elimination and getting the 10 coins doesn't benefit me as much as like the risk there. So a lot of times if they go into one of these situations, like in one of those locations, the risk isn't worth the reward, especially with the chaos shotgun in the game. If the player is super far away, I'm probably not going to go for it either. The way the system works, it doesn't always just mark the nearest person to you. So you could be at Riptides and then get a bounty on someone who's at New Sanctuary. And it's like, I'm not going to go all the way over there to deal with them. I'm just going to play how I'm going to play normally. That's fine. Also, if there's other stuff going on around you, that probably takes, precedent over the bounty. If your bounty is 500 meters away and there's people fighting in a house next to you, I would rather go and third party those people in the house next to me and make the area around me safe rather than, trying to travel around the map just to potentially get that one kill. Also, if there's somewhere else I want to go, again, they could be pretty far away, but if there's like a mountain in zone that I want to go and get control of so that no one else gets control of, especially later on in the match, I'm not going to go push my bounty who's in like the complete opposite direction. It's not that important most of the time. There are some times where you can try to go get a bounty that you're not going to be able to. And the time when this would happen would be like if there's no targets, like let's say it's a 1v1v1, there's 3 players, including you. And those 2 players have a bounty on each other already. If you go to try to get one, you can't get it because each player can only have 1 bounty on them. So if there's an odd number of players in the match, sometimes you won't be able to get one. Also, if your bounty is eliminated by another player, as I said before, when that happens, there's that like contract or piece of paper on the ground. You need to go and pick that up to be able to go get another bounty afterwards for some reason, or wait long enough that it expires. So there are a few times where you aren't able to get one for that reason. So if you're someone who hates this and you don't want to interact with the bounties at all, there are some things you can kind of do to help yourself, but it's not foolproof. And as I kind of just touched on, no one can get a bounty on you if you're already in one. So if you, or like a new player can't get one on you if you're already in one. So if you just don't push the player you have a bounty on and they're super far away from you, that can be a time where okay, for these next few minutes, no one's going to be able to get a bounty on me because me and this player just aren't going to fight anyways because we're so far away, right? I also talked earlier about how you can get bounties on bots. And so if you get a bounty and you identify that it's a bot player, you can just not eliminate them and then you're safe from the bounty system from that period of time until somebody else eliminates that bot or you eliminate that bot. And the bot obviously isn't going to come and eliminate you because it's a bot. So if you really hate the system, trying to get bounties on people that are really far away from you or bots is something that can really benefit you because that buys you time where you're not going to have to interact with the system. I think that's like not an ideal way to play though. I've seen comments from people saying they like really hate the system and it's so unfair that aggressive players are rewarded. If you've watched my videos for a while, one thing that I have constantly recommended if you do want to get better at this game, and odds are you do want to get better at this game because you're about 13 minutes into an informative tip video about the game, right? If you do want to get better, the most important thing you can do is get in a lot of fights, get better at fighting, and get comfortable fighting. Because the people that comment about hating the system so much and how it's ruining the game for them, it comes off to me like they're very scared to fight and they're very stressed getting in fights and they don't want fights coming to them. And if that's the case, the game is going to be hard for you to play. Whether the bounty system is in the game or not, there's going to be people who are comfortable fighting and are decent fighting because they took the time to make that happen. So if you are one of those people, like I said, you can kind of find ways to avoid it. You can go and hide in those underground areas and just be annoying to deal with. You can go to the complete opposite side of the map and run away from your bounty and be annoying to deal with. You could try to get bounties on people who are so far away you're not going to interact, or you could try to get bounties on bots. But at the end of the day, if you don't learn to fight and you don't get comfortable fighting in Fortnite, it's going to be a struggle. It will always be a struggle, and there will always be things that come up that kind of cause this to be a struggle. So step one at improving this game, I think, is just getting comfortable fighting, getting in more fights. Kind of the stress and the panic that comes from getting in fights, I think, will go away a lot once you are used to fighting in game and once you kind of make that happen. The problem is a lot of players get on and want to win. They play overly passive and then they never really build that fighting skill. So just getting in fights can really help. I think for a long time, I have thought that like playing to intentionally get kills throughout the game is ideal because it makes the end game easier. When the end game is really dead, and I get comments sometimes of like, wow, your end game is so dead. Mine has like 10 people in this tiny zone. The reason why my end games are so dead is because I'm playing aggressive to eliminate other players, and that makes the rest of the match easier. And the reason why I would rather have those fights earlier on in the game is, one, there's less time invested, and so if you die, it's whatever. But also, in the early game or in the mid game, there's more potential for you to reset a situation or get away. You might be able to go away, find more heals, find more loot, buy more heals at the vending machine, whatever. But if you're in a very small zone, you're not really going to be able to reset. You know, you don't have as many options. And if there's a lot of people in a very small zone, it can get pretty random and pretty chaotic because as soon as a fight happens, everyone's just kind of chain third partying it. So like for a while, I've kind of played in a way that mimics this bounty system in a way without even having the bounties, because I try to get kills throughout the course of the game. That way the end game is really dead and really easy, because the end game is the more volatile point of the game. If you are a more reserved player, I kind of talked about it, I think getting in fights and getting kills will benefit you in the long run. But I still think if you do want to try to get wins still and play a bit more safe, I think still trying to do some of these bounties early on in the match is the ideal time to do it, because again, there's been less time invested, and so if you die, it's not as big of a deal. But also, you'll start to make some progress towards unlocking that stuff and kind of building your currency, and then you could just kind of full ignore it if you want to. But also, if you're getting the bounties earlier on in the game, I think there's a higher probability you get the bounty on a bot, because, you know, the bots shouldn't make it as long in the match. They do sometimes. But, you know, on average, earlier on in the game, there's probably going to be more bots alive. And so if you get these contracts earlier on in the game, you probably have a higher chance of getting them on bots, which is going to be an easy elimination for you. And it's going to be easy, you know, currency, easy progress on that stuff. So if you want to still play a bit safe, I think probably land, loot up your initial POI, run a few of these bounties, especially if it's a bot name that you recognize, you know, go and kill them. And then once you get into the mid to late game, then just kind of play more standard and play more to win if that's something you want to do. But as I said, I kind of just play how I was going to play anyways, and the bounty system doesn't really impact me too much. But still think it's worth going for because the rewards are really good. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.